Hey, what's up, everyone? Rob Yates, your LPNC Friendly Neighborhood Communications Director here to welcome you to episode 3, season 3 of Liberty Inc. Really good show. Ryan and Dee, Sean Haugh and Brian Lewis with legislative update. We're talking voter ID. We're looking at ETJ. We got Dub and Gru talking sports and looking at the new gambling law. And our guest is the esteemed Larry Sharpe with a really cool discussion about running as a Libertarian candidate. He and I get into it, and he really gives some good insight. And then we bring in Matt Clements, Orange County Chair and former candidate, Steve DiFiore, Met County Chair and former candidate, and our candidate coordinator and also a former candidate, Christina Aragues. It's a good conversation. I highly recommend it. I hope you enjoy the episode. If you don't, or if you do, or if you have other feedback or would like to be on the show, believe me, you can. You see the quality of people we have. We really don't have standards. It is communications@lpnc.org. Reach out at any time, and we'll get right back to you. That being said, I want to let everyone know next Saturday, June the 17th at noon, we're meeting in Gastonia at the Faith, Hope, and Love Ministry to support Pastor Moses. There's going to be a rally and a march. If you're not aware, check it out on the website. Again, reach out to that email address. The city of Gastonia has made it a personal mission to ruin Pastor Moses Colbert for the atrocious crime of feeding the homeless. Their attack on him is vindictive, it's petty, it's dehumanizing, and it's literally killing people. People have died of exposure on the streets because they shut down his homeless camp, his homeless shelter. We could really use you. Again, anyone who says they believe these things, you say you're principled, here's your chance to push back. I really hope to see you all, and I really hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of Liberty Inc., the Libertarian Party of North Carolina podcast. My name is Ryan Brown, and I'm chair of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina, and today I'll be joined with Dean Watson, our secretary, and the political and policy advisor. Today we're going to be talking about the voter ID bill, which was passed in 2018 and is now in effect, and the new Senate Bill 747, which is likely to pass this session. So back in 2018, the citizens of North Carolina voted to implement a constitutional amendment requiring that all voters have an ID to vote. There was 55.5% of the state voted in favor of that. Shortly after the amendment was passed, Senate Bill 824 was passed by the General Assembly. It has been held up in court ever since, but finally, after many years of wrangling, the North Carolina Supreme Court overruled itself and declared that the law was actually, in fact, in order. So it is now in effect, and there's been some recent discussion from the State Board of Election about how this bill is going to be implemented, some 10 fast facts. So I'll throw it over to Dee to talk about how it's being implemented.
So you can use a driver's license. So now in 2023, in the municipal elections that are coming up, they're usually in September, October, and November. You can use a driver's license, but you're going to require some form of photo ID. The government has also set up an approval process. So like a university or an employer or another government facility can also work with them so that their photo IDs could also be used. So if the UNC system goes through that process, then UNC IDs could be used instead of driver's licenses. They've also, if you go to the DMV site, you can apply for a free license if you're over 17 and over, not a non-operating vehicle license. So it has to be for people who don't drive. And they have all, it's very similar. The restrictions are similar to the documentation, similar to what you would need for a driver's license, though. So they're trying to make it available to pretty much everybody, and they've really set up the framework for that. They're having a public hearing either on the 19th or the 20th of June, and they're still taking public comment on the implementation. So if this is something near and dear to people's hearts, the comment period is going to end on the 23rd of June. So people should go and comment if they're interested in it.
Sure. Yeah. Looking at the 10 fast facts, it looks to be one of the most liberal voter ID laws in the country.
Yeah.
So that all voters will be able to vote without an ID if they can then come back and show the documentation, or they were victim of a natural disaster within 3 months of the election or 100 days of the election and get a free ID, and you can send in a photocopy by mail when you do your absentee ballot. So it's kind of interesting that it got held up in the court for 6 years, but at the same time, it's not terribly shocking. So there you go. I know we were going to talk about some of the libertarian positions on the bill, and one of the funny things about libertarians is that we recognize that voting is simply just imposing the will of the majority on the minority. So I don't know if you'll find too many upset libertarians about this voter ID bill, because at least you have to have people show who they are, and in the other bill, we'll get to it later, but it's sort of an anti-fraud bill. But we're not really in favor of many requiring licenses for most things, but when it comes to voting, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
But I mean, libertarians aren't a monolith, so there is a broad spectrum of beliefs on things. But in the society that we live in, you need a license to fish, you need a license to braid hair, you need a license to stand on a street corner. Josh Rohrer was arrested for only having a veteran's ID and not a current state ID. I mean, so their licensure in this country, it's just crazy, and we're opposed to that in general. But then the idea that you don't need one to vote is a little shocking, because why would you need one to braid hair, or to cut hair, or all of these things, but not one to vote? It didn't really make sense. And when I came here from another state where I did need ID, I was shocked that I didn't need ID to vote. It doesn't take a genius how to commit voter fraud in this state. It's pretty obvious. You just go from precinct to precinct in early voting and vote 100 times. So it's no or early voting station. So it's a anti-fraud measure, and it seems pretty straightforward. The issue is that I think this licensure thing in general is something we are opposed to.
Absolutely. I think we would rather get rid of all of the licensing. So you don't need a driver's license to buy a gun, to vote, to buy any alcohol, whatever it is, to braid hair, to run a business. And then when it comes to voting, we get to where the fact that we're going to be voting on things of non-importance, hopefully, that's the libertarian ideal, right? We vote for, the change of the flag of the state, and that's about the most important thing we vote on. That'd be pretty nice. But yeah, I think that's sort of the libertarian ideal. But I think it's somewhat reasonable to have a voter ID law. And even if it's not reasonable, I think the sort of the outrage is a little bit outsized for what is actually being required here, since it is quite a liberal voter ID law.
Well, to me, a lot of the problems with licensure is getting the license. People have to have licenses for all these things. You can't get on an airplane without a license. You're required to have a license for everything. So it's getting the license that I think is so ridiculous. And this change obviously doesn't increase that scope. So
sure. As they are giving away free licenses, so
yeah,
free and air quotes. So the other bill we were going to talk about is a bill that has not yet been signed into law, and it is Senate Bill 747. Do you want to explain that bill, Dee?
Yeah, thanks to League of Women Voters for bringing this up. This bill, because of the nature of it, it is exempt from the crossover issues. It wasn't filed until June 1st. It's already passed its first reading, and it's already been referred to the Committee on Rules and Operations of the Senate. So I think that there's a good chance that this bill will pass. It's a very complex bill for North Carolina. It's a lengthy bill, and it's making a lot of changes to the rules about voting. And I've been going through it. It is a complex piece of legislation, but I mean, there's a lot of obvious changes. So one change is there is basically a crackdown on non-citizen voting. They are planning on using when you go to jury duty, you're exempt from jury duty if you're not a citizen. So there's all kinds of legal residents in the state who can't be jurors because they're not citizens, and they're requiring that quarterly the court system take that and give that to the state board of or they will if this passes, and that they would take this and give it to the state board of elections and then send it to the county boards to basically contact those people, and then there would be a 30-day period where they could like work it out if there's an issue. So they're really cracking down on non-citizen voting was one change. I have a whole list of changes. But it's a pretty comprehensive bill, and I think it's going to pass because I think that it's just an anti-fraud bill.
Sure, I think the bill is actually 16 pages long, and yeah, there's a lot of weird changes in here that aren't really, they're really just technical. But then there are a couple of minor changes, and the big ones being, at least from what I remember, the big ones being the jury vote, or the jury rolls, the master jury rolls being sent over to the Board of Elections looking for non-citizens.
So
And yeah.
Sorry, a couple of other big changes were currently in North Carolina. If you remember during COVID, they really extended it, but there's a 3-day grace period for absentee ballots. So you mail in your absentee ballot, and if it's postmarked on the day of the election or before, they would give you 3 days to get it to the state board of election or the county board of elections. That has been removed. So it would have to be received by election night. And you'll remember during the 2020 cycle, they had extended it. So like it took almost 2 weeks for them to count the ballots in North Carolina because of this grace period. So they're getting rid of that grace period. That was a big change. Another change that I noticed that was a big change was the provisional ballot system. When you go in and you've changed address, you go to your local precinct that you're not registered at, and you can file a provisional ballot. Now they want you to bring verification of your address with you. So there's those were changes. There's verification software is now going to be required for signatures, which I thought was odd. That was the one I was actually most concerned about. And then they created a class 1 misdemeanor for tampering with barcodes on absentee ballots. It was, most of these just seem to be anti-fraud things.
Yeah, the absentee balloting system has a special place in my heart. This is actually my absentee ballot from last year's election. Unopened, no fraud. But one of the things they did is they are requiring updates on how many outstanding ballots we have, how many absentee people requested them, how many were rejected. In my case, what I did was I went and voted in person, and I kept my absentee ballot. So they're required to count and update how many of those ballots we have. Again, it's government running it. So the reason I requested this ballot was because for like 5 elections in a row, I had requested a ballot, or my sister had requested a ballot. And because we were very diligent and loyal non-Democrat voters, at least that's my theory, Wake County would never send us one. So we always would get someone else's ballot or never get a ballot. So good news, Granville County, very good at sending out ballots, so thank you for that. But now we'll have full stats on what ballots are sent out and how many are outstanding. So, well, cool. Was there anything else you had on the bill on 747? Excellent. So thank you for joining, Dee, and that is going to be the legislative update for today's episode. Thanks for listening.
Honorable Brian Lewis. Good evening, Mayor and honorable council members. Brian Lewis, 409 Canal Drive. My post office is Raleigh, North Carolina, but my property is located in what is referred to as ETJ, extra-territorial jurisdiction property. My property has been in ETJ for 40 years since the neighborhood was built. In my little pocket of unincorporated that is in the Raleigh ETJ, I have a farm down the street, 4 houses from mine, where they raise cattle at any given time, have 20 head of cattle, have about 50 sheep. I think he has got 2 llamas now. He had 1 before, and a couple chicken houses. Now me, I'm more of a permaculture farmer. I have 1.5 acres, have a few goats, greenhouse, aquaponics. I like to raise fish, use their effluent. You may have seen my name recently running for Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm a former Soil and Water Conservation Supervisor. I don't only preach environmentalism, I live it. These are the things that I do, and I enjoy doing. I have my own well. I have my own septic field that I have to maintain. If I need police services, Wake County shows up. If I need fire services, it comes through Wake County, and my tax bill is for Wake County. I've been on the ballot a few times, but I can't run for any of your seats. I'm not your constituent. So, why the city of Raleigh is sending me violation notices for something that I'm authorized to do according to the Wake UDO, and specifically state statute 160A 103, state what the authorities are that the municipalities have, and state that ETJ, that the rules that I fall under are the county rules. Now I have to go through the city to adhere to them. That is a condition of ETJ. Under county rules, I'm permitted to have my farm. That has not been brought up into question. There have been attempts from development pressures that you've heard discussed here, but I'm going to run my farm. I'm allowed to run my farm. I've read the rules. I followed the rules. And what I have now is the city of Raleigh's building and zoning department is telling me that I can't have a hay barn to keep my hay and my feed away from my goats and dry. I simply want those to stop. I've been advised to seek counsel, which I have. But before we go any further with that, I simply wanted to come before you, plead my case, and let you know I'm in a county pocket. It's ETJ for 40 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get a report on this in the manager's report, follow-up? Thank you.
I'm Sean Haugh. It's my honor now to serve as Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party in North Carolina. And we wanted to talk today about Senate Bill 675, which does a couple of different things, but the main thing it does is it abolishes what's known as municipal extraterritorial jurisdiction. And I'm very happy to have Brian Lewis here, who you just saw addressing the Raleigh City Council on a very practical matter on this topic from the Wake County LP. And so I wanted to ask you, Brian, are these kinds of notices from the city a common occurrence for you and your neighbors?
The kind of occurrences that you see here and that we're discussing are only common on those of us who are, you say, pushing the boundaries of the use of our property. When my family purchased our home here, which I'm in the basement of our home now, that we looked for a place where we were permitted to do the types of things that we enjoy doing, taking care of the farm. It'll be my retirement career will be focusing on feeding people and the ways we do that where people are, as opposed to shipping them lots of food. I could get into a foodie discussion all day long. It's what I love to do. Many of you know, I ran for Soil and Water Conservation District because it's what I love.
All right. So in looking at this bill, which does completely abolish municipal extraterritorial jurisdiction, How would abolishing ETJ improve your life and others who find themselves living in an ETJ?
You know, ETJ actually makes sense if it were utilized the way it was written and the
Okay.
way the statute is. But the statute's nuances really make it difficult for municipalities to understand and to interpret. One of the running challenges that I have, and since this meeting, I've actually had a text exchange. So we don't get the formal process where they say, here's your citation, here's the date of your hearing. They just text me and say, well, if you come into compliance, or we're going to send it to the attorney. And we're like, okay, tell me a date, and they won't. So the city doesn't really know how to behave. And the county doesn't want to be involved because these are little pockets. There's about 20 some odd homes in my immediate neighborhood that, and one of them is a farm, actually. And so the cities are really left in limbo because they don't. Willful ignorance, I think, might be a best explanation. The city just wants us to behave like we're in the city, but we're not. And that's why.
So it sounds like we're doing them a favor by taking away this power from them.
Well, that really is, it's actually lettered in the bill, and I agree with the lettering in the bill, and it was just kind of funny because it does kind of relate to something I say, where it's colloquially said, "Poop or get off the pot." Neighborhoods like mine are very proximal to the city. It's not an irrational idea that this would be incorporated into the city, except for the requirement for the city to expend money for services, which they don't want to do. And my neighborhood's been 40 years in this limbo zone. So I understand why the ETJ is there. I actually think it's a useful tool for urban development, but cities just don't know how to do it. They haven't known how to do it for a long time. So taking it away, like I would agree with you, is just makes it all a lot easier and less confusing, not only for the enforcing municipality, but also for the homeowners in those districts.
Well, practically speaking, are there any advantages to living in an ETJ?
The partial advantage, I would call it, is that if you buy a home anticipating the city is going to grow, and many people, including my own neighbors, who have always just saying, the city, we are part of the city of Raleigh. They're like, you can't have a farm. This is in the city. Well, we're not in the city. And so even homeowners are just, well, ETJ is just something. The city even came to me and they're like, well, yes, but your title says it's ETJ Raleigh, so you have to be in Raleigh. Like, that's not what the law says. So.
Okay. And my last question is there been any progress on your case since that meeting in April?
We have been in a multi-year limbo. The issue is we have an attorney, we're ready to move forward, but I have nothing to move forward on. I would be the one having to file court papers because the city hasn't filed court papers.
I see.
They tell me every week, they're like, oh, well, we're going to file it to the city attorney. And I'm like, great, have the city attorney call me.
So you're just
do it.
You're waiting for them to make the next move, and they can't even do that.
But yet weekly, I have to tell you, I get the text message or a letter shows up. Well, we determined you're in violation. Okay, well, is there a citation? Is there a citation number? Is there a hearing date? You'd better come into compliance or we're calling the city attorney. And I'm like, okay, well, great. Give them my number. I'd love to meet with them and show them the statute that I'm following.
And then you find out you're just talking to an AI bot.
Just about. I'll try not to be too insulting to the city staff.
Yes, we do have to live next door to these people.
Yes.
It is true. Okay, well, Brian, thank you so much for giving us this insight.
It's my pleasure. And do we have an extra moment?
We do.
That would be wonderful. I have to say, you heard me mention my foodie thing, and I've formerly
Yeah.
served as a soil and water supervisor, and this last election I was on the ballot to offer my services again as a soil and water supervisor, and not because it's the low-level dog catcher seat, and you hear that conversation. But let's sit for some time, talk about what the Soil and Water Conservation does. I have to tell you, it is an organization which has libertarians stamped all over it, because it's about local and voluntary compliance with really good ideas, good environmental stewardship, good farm stewardship. And it's this is part of what I do here on my home is we are a small hobby farm at this stage. I'm in my retirement, hope to move that up a notch and more of a high class farmer. And it's really exciting. And so I encourage everybody to look into that, because we're not in battle with folks. We're looking at how we move forward to do really exciting and good things. So, and on that, one other thing to everybody who's listening, the gentleman who's doing this interview right now, I'm just very honored to have Sean giving me this interview that many years ago, as I was stretching out understanding libertarianism, recovering from an addiction to government, that Sean really gave me a wonderful ability to understand and move away from this idea of peace through force, which I was really kind of bound up in. And such a more exciting and vibrant understanding of how we live together when we move away from this idea of governance by force. And I really owe that to Sean, and just wanted to take this opportunity to say, Sean, thank you so much. And I hold you in high esteem for that.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. It's just so kind.
Well,
No,
if I were
that's
with you, I'd
super
give you a
true.
big hug right now.
Oh, absolutely, man. I didn't know, really, because this is why I do this. And so it really, thank you. Thank you for your
My
kind
pleasure.
words.
And
I
thank
appreciate it
you.
before I start crying. But yes, so we're looking, so anyway, Senate Bill 675 has passed its third reading
Correct.
in the Senate. It looks like it's going to be smooth sailing to the House. I just now wrote to one of the sponsors of the bill to ask him what he thinks its prospects are in the House. But we will keep you posted on that, and maybe look forward to repealing a little layer of government in the next few days.
It's an onion, man. It's an onion.
I know, but a layer at a time. Anything we can get, it's a victory. Well, thanks so much, Brian. I appreciate it.
Sean, my
And
honor. Thank you.
everybody have fun. Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Liberty in North Carolina, iNC. I'm Rob Yates, Communications Director for LPNC, and I'm stoked for our guest tonight, the one, the only Larry Sharpe. Larry, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, brother. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. As we discussed, I really want to talk about running as a candidate, as a libertarian, and I think you have some experience there, a little bit of qualification.
Yes, a little bit.
It's a complicated thing. It's an uphill battle. We need to be working together to get there. At our convention in March, which I would say is objectively the best of all the state conventions, you don't have to comment. We'll take your silence as assent. You said something that has stuck with me, and I have honestly just been thinking about nonstop since, and I would love if you could elaborate on it. You said,
Sure.
Running as a libertarian means you're going to get stabbed in the back by other libertarians. You need to pull the knife out and hand it back to them.
Yep. Absolutely. And here's the reality. Libertarians have been running for 50 years and losing for 50 years. So the joke is always the same joke, right? Libertarians winning arguments and losing elections for 50 years. And it's true. So what do we do well? We argue well. Do we win elections? Well, we don't. There's a huge chunk of people who will always not even care about winning, and those who will only care about messaging and not care about moving forward. They will only think their message or their issue is number one. So you're never going to be the right libertarian for those people. And there's lots of them out there. Now, some of them will be savvy and go, you know what? He's not the right libertarian for me. I'm going to walk away and whatever. I'll go do something else, right? That's not the guy for me. I'll move on. Others who I think are also savvy will say, you know what? He's not the right one for me, but he's good enough. I'll be with him. It's fine. I'll deal with it, right? But then there are those who say, no, if you are not my type of libertarian, then there may be no libertarian. It is my libertarian or no libertarian. Or others who will feel slighted because sadly, many people who are serious about winning have packed up and left our party. So there are a lot of people who are sitting here who are just happy having their own little fiefdom, their own little kingdom. So now if you decide to move up and to do something and you don't do it their way or show them enough respect or be nice enough to them or allow them to have their own kingdom or how dare say they might be wrong for what they've been doing and failing for the past 20 years, they decide you are now their enemy. And when they decide that, they will then stab you in the back. And if you run third party, you will be attacked by the duopoly all the time. You'll be attacked by the system all the time. But you kind of know that, like, so you're kind of okay with it, right? I mean, it still sucks. Yeah, but you know, okay, look, these are the media is going to attack me. I got it, right? The left and right is going to disrespect me. I got it. I understand that. I hate it, but I understand it. But the problem is the person who stabs you in the back, you're probably not going to be ready for it. And all of a sudden, someone who's on your team is going to do something like say something bad about you behind your back, say something publicly bad about you, actually hurt you, tell people to not give you money, tell people you're bad, start a rumor behind your back, something like that to make your life a whole lot harder. And when that knife goes in your back, you can't pull it out and start fighting. You got to pull it out and you get right back to them. You got to go, I think this is your property, Rob. You got to do that. And the reason why you have to do that is you still need them. That's why you still need them. We are too small of a group for us to have civil wars. Civil wars, as you've seen and I saw last year, ruined us. Civil wars destroy us. That's why the left and the right always foment civil wars. That's why they do it, because they can do that and we destroy ourselves. Happens all the time. We break up within groups. We break up all the time. We screw things up constantly because we go into civil wars. If you notice, it is very rare that I engage in any of these things. People very often, if you watch my social media, attack me, call me names, blah, blah. I rarely engage ever. Why? It's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
It's a distraction.
If I just shut up, generally speaking, the people who are attacking me are one of two types of people. One, someone desperately looking for validation or respect. Desperately, right? So what I'll do often, this is going to sound funny, I'll have them on my show.
That actually makes sense. I mean, kill them with kindness.
Yes.
That's my follow-up question.
Yes, the people who attack me most, they go on my show sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
But I shouldn't say that out loud because I don't want to attack me to get on my show. But anyway, but that does happen sometimes. Well, the other thing is I just ignore them and they go fight somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's my follow-up question was going to be, how often have you found that handing them the knife back actually builds you a stronger ally than you might have had before? Well,
what it usually does is they don't strike again. It doesn't always give me an ally, but they rarely strike again. Some people are hardcore. Some people really don't like me and they will stab multiple times. Some will, but it's very rare. Most people stab once. It doesn't work because they want to either kill me or have me go to them and agree with them, right? They think, this is what I'll do. I'll be a jerk to Larry. Then he'll change all his ability and now become my friend. They honestly think that, right? And the reason why I say I laugh about this is, I guess one of the worst parts for me to deal with is, as you know, Rob, I'm very accessible. Like I'm very accessible. So if I say something or do something, or you hear something that you don't like, or you think is wrong, you could probably just like DM me on Twitter and the odds are either me or one of my team will get back to you with an explanation or a reason or clarity or something, but it's rare. What usually happens is, oh my God, Larry said something bad. Let me just totally put him on blast or all of Twitter and Facebook because that'll make Larry love me. I don't know, whatever they think, whatever, because that'll work. And what it actually is them just trying to virtue signal. So many libertarians will scream and yell about virtue signaling and, oh, they're always virtue signaling. Yet they are some of the biggest virtue signalers that we could possibly have.
Love our purity tests.
Yes, absolutely. So to answer your question, I don't always get allies, but generally speaking, they are no longer an enemy. And I will take that. They'll just walk away from me. They go, it's not worth it. I'll go stab somebody else.
okay, so then stepping back, sort of the 35,000-foot view, knowing what you know, what's the first thing a candidate should be thinking? And to put it in context, not a messaging candidate. Like I want to win.
No.
I want to win elections. What's a serious candidate? What's the first thing?
How do I raise money?
Yeah, yeah.
Number one, not even close. There's nothing. Money solves a whole lot of problems. And I wish that wasn't true. And in fact, in 2018, I didn't realize how much it was true. And it's one of the reasons why I ran in 2022, because I was so upset by how much pay to play it was and by how much money solves so many problems. I raised $500,000 in 2018 and got 2% of the vote, and wish I'd raised another 2 million. Like it wasn't enough, right? It wasn't anywhere near enough. I raised 400,000 last year and couldn't even get on a ballot.
Jeez.
Yes. So I know how to raise money. I do raise money, but I mean, it's not enough. If you can't raise a bunch of money, don't waste your time. If you can't build a team, don't waste your time. Money solves a lot of problems. And people might say, well, Larry, what do you mean? You're just going to buy talent or buy people off? No. Money. There are several reasons why. Number one, if you say I'm running for X, whatever X is, the press will ignore you. If I'm running for X and I raised more money than they expected, whatever that number is, local races, maybe a couple $1,000. Right. Bingo. They go, whoa, okay. He's serious. Okay, she's serious. Now what? So raising money gets you attention because that's how they validate you. You are validated by how much money you raise. I know it's dumb. I know libertarians think that's stupid. It makes no sense. And you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's how it actually works, right? It's unfair and true. That's how they decide if you're valuable, right? How do you get into polls? Well, by being smart. No, by buying polls.
Yeah.
Right? So you buy the poll and you're in the poll. Well, polls at the lowest end are going to cost you $5,000 to $10,000. Lowest end. High-end polls cost you 40, 50K to do a poll. You can't raise money. You can't be in a poll. You can't be in a poll. You're not real. So you got to be in the polls. So money solves that problem. I'm not even talking about paying for people. I'm talking just paying to survive, just to get around so people will pay attention to you. You want to be in the press? Buy ads. You stop buying ads, they will cover you. Done. Buy ads, local paper, you cover your local paper. That costs money.
Point before you buy the
Yes.
ads, the ads reinforce themselves all of a sudden. Oh, you must be serious. And
Absolutely. So the only way to do that is through having money. And even if you don't do that, you need more grassroots. Great. How do you get people to show up? Most of the people who are active, really active in politics are older. And most of them are on Facebook, right? That's just true. Facebook's for older people, not for the 20-somethings. They're not on Facebook anymore. But you're 40, 50, 60. You're probably on Facebook, right? If you're politically active, you're probably on Facebook. So you need Facebook ads. That costs money. That's how the people will show up at your event. So now you can do some grassroots stuff. So the number one thing without question is how are you going to raise money? If you can't square that circle somehow, hiring somebody to do it, you doing it, you hopefully being independently wealthy, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But whatever the case may be, you got to find a way to raise money.
that's I don't know if you saw the documentary on AOC burning down the house, I think it was called. On
I
Netflix.
did.
It was an interesting documentary, and it certainly lays a blueprint for a grassroots campaign, but people don't realize she had like $7 million in Justice Democrats money back in her too.
Absolutely. I know she's my congressperson. She knocked on my door.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, I was right in there for that campaign. I understand. And I will always give that woman credit. Boy, does she have a work ethic. No longer is that true. Now all she does is do like TikTok makeup stuff. But back in the day, she did earn that seat. I will give her that. She busted a run for that seat.
So you need money to start off. You want to go grassroots, fine. You still need the money to get there. Then you have to be a candidate that resonates. So
Yes. And let me touch that piece if I could.
absolutely.
Generally speaking, libertarians are better at being activists than they are at being candidates. Now we need activists. We don't have enough of them. We need more and more activists. To be forward, the Libertarian Party needs everything. We need donors, activists, candidates, volunteers. We need it all, right? We need all of it. So when I say this, I'm not dissing activists at all. We need more of them. We don't have enough. We could use another times 10. We could use far more activists. We don't have enough of them. We have some great ones. What we lack, though, is good candidates. Why? The difference between a candidate and an activist. An activist's job is to get people to realize there's a problem, to show them there's an issue, to push out the stuff, to get attention. That's their job. And many of them are good. We don't have enough of them, right? A candidate's job, you said resonate. How do you resonate? You resonate because if the activists are doing their job well, they're letting people know there's a problem. Look, what's wrong with you? End the Fed as a good example, right? End the wars, end the war on drugs, insert thing here, whatever they're pushing. So now the public goes, yeah, these libertarians are right. This is a problem. I read the book, or blah, 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 whatever. So now what's the candidate go? The candidate will often just be another activist. I want the candidate to resonate. How do you resonate? By having a way to solve the problem. So now that people say, okay, there's a problem, well, the candidate now is to solve the problem. I say, wait a minute, Larry, Democrats, Republicans don't solve a problem. You're right. They don't have to. It's not fair. Yeah. It's not fair. It's, again, this is the thing I talk about running. If you run as libertarian, the entire system is not fair. You will run an unfair system. You will have one hand tied behind your back. You will be backstabbed by your own people, and there is no recourse. You will never make it back. It will never be okay. You're just screwed. That's how you must accept or don't run. That's how it is.
You have to do all that within rules that a system has written designed to keep you out of it.
Accurate. Yes, all of that's true, which is why we don't have many good candidates, because, oh my God, how can you do that? Which is the reason why so many people run once and then don't run anymore. Because they're like, why the hell would I do this?
Because you got to be crazy or narcissistic.
Yes, it's a problem. Now, we are lucky, though. If you go back 10 years or more, it was very rare anybody stayed in our party as a candidate long. It just didn't. But now people are staying. It's happening more and more. More people are staying and running more than once. That's happening where they're staying, they're learning, they're staying, they're passing on to others, right? That is happening more. But let me touch that point I meant. Why do people care about me at all? It's always because of a policy I had, right? To this day still, I'll be down in New York City somewhere. I live in Queens. I'll be running in the city somewhere, and a car will drive by, window will roll down, and some young guy will yell out, "Regulate like onions, yeah!" Because they remember my policy of regulating cannabis like a plant, right? That still happens. People remember my bridge idea, right? Of leasing out naming rights to bridges, right? Ideas that are libertarian ideas. We need more of those. And the more we create, the better. Now, again, you're gonna say, but Larry, Democrats, Republicans don't do that. They don't have to. All a Democrat has to do is go Republican bad, or Republican has to do is go Democrat bad. Yeah. That's their entire, that's all they do.
The problem is the other party, and the solution is to vote for them.
Correct. Yes, we don't get that. It is unfair, not even still true.
Yes, I'm managing a campaign, and our whole theme is libertarian solutions, like solutions. We have real solutions. In terms of candidates resonating, though, something I feel like you actually have a unique perspective and an ability to opine on is we see a lot of candidates who are successful in other parties with military backgrounds. And there's not a ton. I think there are more. I think we're seeing a lot of ex-military join the party because they realize that
Marines.
Well, they're good people. It's an honorable profession to go into, and they get over there and they're like, I joined to fight for freedom, and that's not what's going on. But how important do you think that is in terms of creating this candidate profile as having the military background?
Well, I think it does help, because still to this day, Americans feel that joining the military is service to the country. It shows that you're prepared to sacrifice. That's what it shows. So I think, yes, people like it. I mean, everyone knows I'm a Marine. I literally have a tattoo right now that says it.
And we thank you for your service. I mean, like you said, for real.
And my father was a vet. That's his flag. That's behind me. My father was a vet also. I'm a vet. So yes, I think it's common that people do that, right? I think it's common. And it's not a bad thing. It's not required, but historically it's been the thing. If you look prior to the Vietnam War, Vietnam changed everything. Prior to the Vietnam War, every American aristocratic family, and there were many of them, sent one of their sons off to war. It's what you did. Otherwise, how can you be part of the aristocracy? The kings and queens of Europe sent one of their sons off to war. Usually a second son, but they would send one of the sons off to war, right? Because it's what you did, right? Sometimes the king himself would go off to war, right? You did it. It's what you did. It was in our culture, and it's still a part of us.
Where your stripes came from.
Correct. Yes, that's part of it. So I think it is valuable if you have it, but not required, particularly as libertarians. You don't need it because you're going to have a bunch of veterans who are going to support you anyway. Tons of veterans supported Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson's not a veteran. Tons of them supported him like there's no tomorrow. And something else. Your point's a very valid one. Most people who join the military, either when they join it before or during, believe they're fighting for the country. They believe they're fighting for liberty and freedom. Then they go and they realize that's not what they're doing. And they come back pissed off. It's very common because they thought that's what they were doing. And they go, I'm not, that had nothing to do with what I was doing. I had nothing to do with it. And then they come back and go, that sucks. Now, if one libertarian can say, hey, you want to fight for freedom? They go, yeah, that's why I joined the military. I got away. And then they join us. So you're right. They do come to us a lot. It's true.
And it makes total sense. I mean, because they not only fight for freedom and realize that they've been deluded at best, but then they come back and find out that the system that said we're going to take care of you for your whole life does not care about them.
Correct.
One bit, unless they're willing to get right in and be another cog in that machine. And I think that's where libertarian messaging, I think that resonates not just with veterans, but that's where we can get through to a lot of people who are so disillusioned. You said something else that has really resonated, and I've thought about this in terms of messaging, because I don't think we should water our messaging down. That doesn't mean you can't tailor it for the audience. And you said, remember this, almost everyone who joins the Libertarian Party is not a libertarian when they join the party. They're just delusioned.
Yes.
So how then, because I mean, for a libertarian candidate, you had some success. How did you get that message through?
There are a couple things to remember. I'll try to hit a couple of them. Number one, I always lead with empathy. I don't lead with rhetoric. I lead with empathy. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I will very often say things like, community matters. That's volunteerism. That's libertarianism. But I don't say libertarianism. I say community matters. People go, oh, that sounds amazing. It does, because it's true. Community will always support better than government every time. The data is clear on this one, right? And as I say these things, they go, oh, yeah, you're right. Then talk about libertarian philosophy. First, bring up the empathetic piece. I say libertarians are the peacemakers. They go, what? Yes, we're the peacemakers. We're the ones that get Democrats and Republicans to be better. I tell people we're better Democrats than Democrats and better Republicans than Republicans. We're better than both of them. And then they go, huh? And then we start talking. So I think you lead with empathy first. That draws people in. The problem is many libertarians, this goes back to the backstab piece. They can't stand that.
Because now
They're
you're
like,
not
no.
libertarian.
They take it as I'm watering down the message. Not watering down the message. You have never seen me have a policy that wasn't libertarian. Ever. Doesn't exist. I don't have one. Does not exist. Right? And I've been doing this actively since 2016. And never happened. But have I changed my messaging? Of course, to my audience. And I lead with empathy. And I try to bring them in. And I was talking to a gentleman recently on one podcast I was on, and I said, look, for my hardcore libertarians who are listening, for my anarchists and my ANCAPs, I am one of the rare mainstream candidates who loves you guys and thinks you're critical and important to the party. Without hardcore ANCAPs and anarchists, this party will become either Democrat light or Republican light. Guaranteed. You have to have them in the party to point us in the direction. They are our North Star. I have to have them, right? What my request has always been and still is and will always be, if you are one of those hardcore guys or gals, please try being less of a scolder and more of a teacher. So when I bring these people, because I'm bringing you people who are not libertarians, to your point, Rob, they're not libertarians. They're people who are pissed off. That's who they are.
And
so you can't hit
like you
them.
said, North Star. Give them a direction.
Yes. Say, thank you, Larry. We will take it from here. Thank you for bringing them. We got this. You go back out and do your thing. We got these people now. So, yeah, take them and say, okay, let's have the conversations. Let's talk about taxation. Oh, you know what? Here's a book to read. Oh, you know what? You're worried about this? Let's do it with this. I tell a story often. It was early on in my time in Libertarian. I joined the Libertarian Party in 2012. It was probably 2013 or 14 this happened. I'm in an event in New York City, I think either Manhattan or Queens, I forgot which one. A young man comes in, probably 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. He comes in, he's like, hey, I'm so glad I saw you guys. So awesome. He's excited, bubbly. I can't believe I saw you online. We're like a meetup or something, right? He's like, oh, I saw you on meetup, whatever, so good. And he goes, I'm just curious, you guys don't hate NASA, do you? Now, you know what happened already. Immediately attacked NASA, why the private market could do it better, blah, 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 blah. He never came back. Instead of us just saying, you know what, you like NASA? Great. Why'd you come here? Well, I came here because taxes. Awesome. Let's talk about taxes. Meet the guy where he is, fight on the issue what's to fight on, draw him in, and later on, he'll hate NASA too. It's fine.
And that's
It's fine.
even there, you don't have to trash NASA. It's like, yeah, NASA's done some cool things. Guess what the private market could do once he's ready to have that conversation.
Absolutely. He came because he hates taxes, or he came because he likes guns, or he came because he hates the war on drugs, or he came because he's tired of the LGBT community not being, well, not in New York City, that wouldn't be true, but maybe someplace else, not being treated well, right? Whatever. He came because of a reason. So meet him where he is, have that conversation, and we'll move him on. It's fine. In 6 months, he'll be anarchist anyway. It's fine. It's all.
That's what happens. I'm with you. I feel like we need more marketing professionals in the Libertarian Party. It's not
just people who can realize that in reality, when someone's in trouble, whatever that trouble is, financial trouble, physical trouble, mental trouble, whatever it is, the first thing they need is not a government program. The first thing they need is somebody who cares.
Yep.
Once they find the person who cares, now, okay, I care about you. Now let me see what works best for you. The government program might be the best thing out there. I hope it isn't, but some cases it is. But there might be a community that can help you out. There might be people or a book or whatever. That could be something that can help you out of your problem. Maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's a clinic, who knows? But if it's someone who cares first, now you're good. Libertarians want people to connect. We want people to do it because we want to do it, not because the government forces us to do so.
Yep.
We want to do it because you want to. I want people to help me because they want to help me, not because the government compels them to. You speak that way, people go, oh, I want that too. I know, you're a libertarian.
So we have a few more people to come on with the panel for discussion after this, but I got one last question before they come on. You famously were endorsed by the Forward Party in your last run for governor of New York. And while there are certainly a lot of people who I believe vote Republican or Democrat kind of out of fear for the other party, there are a lot of disaffected people out there too.
Yep.
What I think the barrier we need to overcome is the machine is very good at creating fear.
Yes.
You vote Republican because if you vote Democrats, we'll be a communist. And if you vote Democrat, because if you vote Republican, there's going to be fascists in the White House tomorrow. And
yep.
How do we get over the hump of fear that's been created and reach those disaffected voters like you did with the Forward Party?
It's coalition building. It really is that. Look, to be forward, the Forward Party does not agree with a lot of stuff that we agree with Libertarians, a lot of them. But I was on stage last year, Freedom Fest, with Yang talking, not because we agreed on, say, gun rights, as we do not agree, but right, things like that we don't. But we did agree on one thing, and that was electoral reform. So we talked about electoral reform. That's what we agreed on, electoral reform, right? I didn't bring up anything else. And this sometimes becomes a problem with, again, libertarians who get mad. Like I'll go into, say, New York City, and I don't lead with the Second Amendment, right? It's not that doesn't mean my policies changed. I don't lead with it. We're mad. Why don't you push the Second Amendment? Because my audience doesn't care about the Second Amendment. It doesn't mean that I change my view on it, but I'm not going to push it because they don't care, right? So I change.
You don't go to a bunch of sixth graders or first graders, 6-year-olds, and promote Die Hard.
Yes. Yes, exactly. When I go upstate New York, I spend much time on things like school choice. They are all about school choice up there, right? So I focus on the things that matter to the people I'm in front of. Doesn't mean that I've changed my policies or anything, right? Or that I have to be a jerk about it. So when I'm in front of the Forward Party, I don't talk about guns ever. I just leave it out. Doesn't mean all of a sudden people go, well, yeah, now because Forward, like you now like guns, like you want gun control. Shut up. No, I've never said it. Nothing's ever changed. My policies have changed. Stop. It's just they don't care. I don't talk about it with them. But I have done many individual issue, single issue coalitions. It's not a bad thing. And here's the reason why. Because am I going to get a bunch of people in the Forward Party to all of a sudden become libertarian? Probably not. Will I get some? Yes, I'll get some, but probably not a lot. But the difference is now those forward party people, they are open to voting Libertarian, when before they were not, because they met a good one.
Yep.
So now they're open to the idea of voting Libertarian. So that means all those forward party people, if they either don't like their forward guy or there is no forward guy, they might vote Libertarian when they see it on the ballot. I just opened that up to more people to vote for us. And some will become Libertarians. I don't know what that percentage is, but some will. But now they're open to voting for us, right? And I did it for other people.
Yep.
I go to DSA meetings.
Yeah.
Democratic Social of America. Yes. Spike Cohen teases me. He calls me the communist whisperer because I speak to a lot of far left people. Because what people don't know is if you go far enough left, you still get to anarchy, right? If you go far enough left, you get your guns back. You got to keep going left.
I love my Marxist purist friends because I'm like, you just haven't finished your thought. You're so close. Like,
yes, exactly right. Yes.
And it's collaborativism as opposed to collectivism.
Correct. Yes. I call it voluntary socialism. And many of them are like, huh.
A team is the most efficient structure you're going to have.
Correct.
We hear socialism and we instantly think state ownership, everything. That's fine. I'm not trying to glorify or redefine socialism, but it's like, so you're against the police, you're against state overreach, you support the First Amendment, you support the Second Amendment, and you want more government? Just take it one step further.
Yes, I agree.
Right.
So that's why I talk to them, because I want people to be open to us. What we struggle for more than anything is for legitimacy.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing we struggle for. If people see us as legitimate, they will then begin to hear us. If they hear us, we can win this thing. We're the only hope in America as Libertarian Party.
I'm with you there. And that is a perfect note. Speaking of hearing us, if you can hang out for a couple of minutes, we're going to bring on a few North Carolina candidates. But first, anyone watching or listening, take a look at the next few pictures that come up. We got lots of libertarians with businesses here in North Carolina. They're not getting paid. I'm just encourage you to support them. And thank you, everyone. We are back, and I'm stoked. We got Matt Clements, Christina Aragues, and Steven DiFiore. I cannot talk. I apologize. I'm recovering from strep throat, actually, which is why if you see me with a drink, I'm not drinking for this. I am trying to soothe my throat.
Is it whiskey?
Bourbon, kind of whiskey. Always bourbon. But yeah, so we got 3 of North Carolina's finest ex-candidates, and actually, I want to start with Matt. Chair of Orange County. Matt, you've run for North Carolina House in the past, and you gave a fantastic speech on Second Amendment rights. And you're talking about going with the proper messaging for the right place. You seem to have a pretty receptive crowd when you were giving that speech. What do you think resonates in North Carolina?
Well, I mean, it's funny that you asked. That was actually a Second Amendment's rally in Hillsborough, actually put on by Ashley Campbell, who's active with the Libertarian Party. And so, since I was running as a candidate and got a chance to go give a speech there, that was right about the same time that our current Lieutenant Governor had just recently given his speech at the Greensboro City Council, where Robinson made the "We are the people," and that's where his political career got started, which in hindsight is going to be interesting for whoever's running against him as governor this upcoming year, because the dirt that's going to come out on him is going to be very, very, very entertaining to see. But so also realizing that the area that I'm in, the Second Amendment it's much like, when Larry talks about New York, Orange County, 20% of the people care about the Second Amendment. The other 80 probably are more interested in using the power of the state to compel you to do what they think is for everyone's safety. So I got a chance to talk about how all gun control is racist. And so that's always one of my favorites, because then you get a chance.
100%.
Yeah, when you get there and you get a chance to bang on Ronald Reagan as a governor and how he and the NRA cooked up in 68, getting worried about armed Black people, that's when the NRA and, the Republicans go, oh, geez, wow, we can't have that. We got to defend our law and order, which is, the people that were, enforcing the civil rights at the time. So, and then, you get into recently, in North Carolina, talking about the pistol permits, and that was just a vestige from the Jim Crow laws. Good moral character. How do you define that? Well, probably the same way that some of the some of the sororities on UNC's campus, would judge people by, are you darker than a brown paper bag or whatever? So it's
yeah, it's funny you say that. In New York State, I was at the Second Amendment. It's the second suggestion. It's the same thing. And I think the two ways that I've used it, similar to what you're saying, man, I love what you said, is I will say, gun control is racist. And the funny part is, once I say that, the left goes, what? And the right gets angry at me. They do to get mad at me.
Yeah.
Because I've had people go, what? No, what are you talking about? I'm like, yes, stop. I'm on your side. Shh, stop. But they're like, but no, you have to say Second Amendment shall not be infringed. And then I have to tell them, most of my city, 99% of my city is 6-1 Democrats, Republican, 6-1, right? And the state's 3-1 Democrats, Republican. The entire state 3-1. A Republican has not won a statewide election in my state in 22 years. Nothing. Not governor, not senator, not AG, nothing in 22 years. That's how deep blue my state is. So I say, you don't understand. Most people who are standard Democrats don't respect the Constitution. They don't respect it. So saying that it's in the Constitution doesn't matter, because they're okay with literally getting rid of the Second Amendment tomorrow. They don't care. They would just do it. It doesn't matter. But if I say it's racist, then they go, what? And I go further, Matt. You talk about 68. I talk about right now. I say, so you're for gun control? Well, yeah. I said, so you like putting Black men in jail? And they go, what? I go, yeah, because the gun laws that have been passed in the past 10 years in New York State, 90% of them are used against young Black men as extra charges to ensure they go to jail, to ensure they plead and go to jail. So if you want gun control, you are literally saying you want young Black men to go in jail. And the right goes, oh, Larry, that's brilliant. Yes. So start saying that instead of your shall not be infringed stuff in New York State. Just say that instead. And Democrats start doubting everything. They start doubting. Now, it does not make them pro-gun. It does not. But it does make them start doubting and going, you know what? Maybe we have gone far enough. Maybe we have gone too far. I don't need Democrats to become pro-gun. I need them to become apathetic. That's what I do. I'm not asking them to become pro-gun. They're not going to go there. They've been decades taught that all guns are evil. Guns go off on their own. They kill people by themselves. They've been believing that for 20 years. They're not going to change. But can I get them to become apathetic? I can. If I get them apathetic, I think we win.
So it's funny because North Carolina is a reasonably liberty-friendly state, and yet there's a few people on here who sit in some of the least liberty-receptive areas. So, Steven, I saw you nod your head a little bit. You've run for office. You're also the chairman of our Mecklenburg County affiliate, one of the two largest county. I think it's the largest county and second largest city in North Carolina. To say we're deep blue, I mean, we would be a communist city if we could, and I'm not exaggerating. Charlotte would love that. How do we get people to just be apathetic?
So, yeah, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte is the largest city in North Carolina, and it's in Mecklenburg County, which I think is the second largest county, right next to Wake County, which is like the Research Triangle area where the state capital is and all that. But we're catching up, Wake. We're catching up. So Charlotte is a really nice place to live. Mecklenburg County is pretty nice, and a lot of people are moving here from all over the country.
I thought about moving there before myself.
Yeah, exactly.
welcome.
You know, lots of halfbacks here in Charlotte. So for those of you who don't know, you know, there's this joke that, you know, New Yorkers go to Florida and then figure out it's too hot, and they come halfway back, end up in North Carolina for halfbacks.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
as you can tell by my accent, I'm not a native North Carolinian. I actually am originally from New York. Don't hold that against me.
I'm from
But,
DC.
you know,
We're forgiving.
but I've lived in Charlotte since 2005, which practically makes me a native. But, you know, thousands of people are moving into Charlotte every year from, you know, all over the country, mostly from the Rust Belt, California, you know, New England, things like that. So it makes for a very interesting political culture. It does lean very heavily toward Team Blue, though. But one of the things that is very tip of mind for most of the most of the Charlotte voters that I've ever talked to are just, you know, nuts and bolts kind of stuff. You know, why are the roads congested? Why is it so expensive to buy a house? Hey, I want to open up a business, but there's this weird zoning ordinance. You
Why
know,
are property taxes going up 30%?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's like a county thing. And, you know, they're supposed to do reassessments every 8 years, but now they're just doing it every 4 while the housing value is super high. You know, so there's a lot of that. And it's kind of a weird mix of different political cultures and an interesting clash of YIMBY versus NIMBY. You know, usually you get one or the other, but Charlotte is getting a good mix of both. But you know, to Larry's point, when he was talking about being a candidate is meeting people where they are. So one of the reasons why I chose to run for city council in 2017, well, 2 reasons mostly. As an activist of the Mecklenburg County affiliate, we wanted to figure out as a party, a local party, how to actually run. None of us had done it before. None of us had really worked on a campaign. We didn't really know what to do. Like in theory, we did. We read books and stuff and, you know, kind of knew the statutes, but we had never actually done it. So I was like, you know what? I'll volunteer as tribute. I like standing in front of people and talking, and I'm kind of interested in some of these things. And I went for it. And I'll tell you, I made every single mistake you can make as a candidate, but I only made each mistake once. Right.
Yes.
And I will tell you something that people don't hear. I don't know if enough of us talk about it. It was an extraordinarily gratifying experience, at least for me. Right. I had the opportunity that I wouldn't have had before to go to all parts of the city that I live in. Right. And meet the parts that I would never normally go to and meet people I would never normally meet and have conversations with them. And I got to know my community, my neighbors, my fellow Charlotteans in a way that I never would have before. And it was an immensely gratifying and enriching experience, which is one of the reasons why I'll always recommend, if you're going to run wholeheartedly, but, you know, go to all the events, talk to everyone you can, you know, be involved, get to know people. You know,
I've got to tell you, Steve, when you're saying this, you know, you might not know, but I cross my state every year, even when I'm not running. I go to the 62 counties in New York State. I go to every county every year. I call it the full Sharpe because I stole it from Grassy, who did it in Iowa. So I call it the full Sharpe. I do it every year. I've done it 5 times. Doing it the 6th time is this year. Even when I don't run. And what happened is, as I keep going, you're exactly right. I meet so many people that I know what their stories are. So when someone tells me, well, there's a problem, I go, I know what happened. This, and this. How'd you know? Because I've met 6 people at your problem already, because I've been across this state so many times. I've met people, I know what the problems are. I know how to talk about them. And when I talk to them, they're like, damn, Larry, you like know what really happened. Yes, because I've heard the stories so many times. It's why people, even though I'm from New York City, upstaters still like me because I don't pretend I'm not from New York City. I'm from New York City. It's clear, it's obvious. I don't pretend. It's who I am. And when I get there, I don't try to, like, you know, put a hat on and go, howdy, y'all. I don't do that stuff. I just go, no, I'm a New Yorker. It's fine. I'm from New York City. It's fine. But I understand you. I think it's completely correct. But something else. In 2021, before I announced, I did some polling. Well, I didn't officially do polling. Someone else bought some polls. Who I know. Anyway, someone bought polls. And in the polling, I came in at 6% before I announced. For a third-party candidate to be starting at 6% across New York State before they announce is massive. And it's not because I'm super smart or super handsome. I mean, I am super handsome, but that isn't the reason why. The reason is, Christina, you're supposed to be smiling and believing that's true. Okay, anyway, the reason is because I cross-state so much. And I shook those hands like you talked about, Stephen. Shaking those hands is critical.
Oh yeah, yeah, and having those conversations, meeting people where they are, and I'll tell you, like at the beginning of the campaign, I had this idea of like, oh, these are the issues that are important in Charlotte, and by the end of the campaign, I'm like, oh, these are actually the issues that are important in Charlotte. And you know, you keep up those conversations, you keep those email threads, you keep talking to folks, you know. It's great to have those connections. You know, I show up to a city council meeting and they're like, oh, there's Steve, you know. Like that's cool in one way, but it also means that if there's something that needs to happen, right? Like, oh, I need a stormwater variance or something like that, you know, I know who to call, you know, and this is a great way to help out. Being a candidate at a local level, which I think is where our party can really make the most change and the most
100%.
impact in a good way. You know, it allows you to know, you know, get to know who the levers of power are, how to pull them, and in your community, if something needs to get done, you can be that facilitator, even if you don't, like, even if you're not the elected official. In the process of running and getting to know the community and the community getting to know you, you become a fixture, and it's a way to enact change that makes lives better. At least that's
you
how
really brought up a good point. And the reason why I ran for governor wasn't because, well, at the end, it wasn't because I was going to win for governor. Did I want to win? Of course. Did I run to win? Of course I ran to win. But I recognized the biggest thing I could do running at the top of the ticket was not win. I mean, of course I could, but that wasn't what I was really going for. The top of the ticket has the best chance for press, but the least chance for victory. The bottom of the ticket has the best chance of victory, but the least chance for press. So if you can get the top of the ticket to get some extra press and then do what I did, which in 2018, when we got ballot access for the party, 2019, I crossed state again, and I went to all the local people running, and I was bringing press and bringing people, local people. We had 107 victories in 2019. 2019, we went from 0 libertarians to 107 in 1 year. And that's to your point, Stephen. They can make impact locally. They were all local. They're like city council and water board and all those things, but I didn't care. It was victory. I was happy we had them. Then right after that, the state came in and destroyed our party. Stroke of a pen in a budget issue. And our party went away and we lost everything. But I guess I'm just reinforcing what you're saying, Stephen. I completely agree. The reason to run top of the ticket, again, I want to run to win. We should try to win. But the real goal is to get the press so that now you can hand it down to the bottom of the ticket who can actually win and actually make change.
Well, you want to talk local candidates? We got our candidate coordinator on here who also, would you get 33,000 some votes, and
Like
you were
36,000 something votes.
So you were
Lost
50
by
votes
around
away.
50.
50 votes away, roughly 53
Yeah.
votes.
Nice.
So where'd you miss? What did we miss? What did the party miss?
You know, it's tough. There's so many things when it's that close at the end that you think, oh, I should have done this. My sign should have been bigger. I should have had my bigger sign sooner. I should have woken up 15 minutes earlier on, you know, the first day of early voting. My kids' school's right across the street from the largest voting center. If I had just gotten those little booties out of bed in time, I would have won. So I mean, it's tough. You second guess everything. But my goal was, I was trying to prove a point because I ran for school board as a write-in, and everyone said, oh, you're so smart, you're so this. You have a master's degree in geological engineering. If you ran for soil and water, you'd win. And I said, no, I probably won't. I'll do my best. I'll get out there. I'll spend every day at the polls, and I did. I'll have these huge signs. I'll do all this press. I'll only spend $2,500, but it won't matter. I could spend $10,000 and it won't matter because I'm not a Democrat or Republican, because you have people at the polls for Democrats and Republicans handing out the slate tickets and saying, this is all you need. This is all you need. Sadly, my point was proven. I had some friends and family that helps out day of and in between, but in general, the Libertarian Party, we don't get out there at the election polls and get people to come our way. And that's difficult. And we're so partisan because, especially in Cumberland County, we're the 3rd largest county in North Carolina. We have poisoned water. It is facts. We get 40 million here and there to try to fix it. The money goes nowhere to consultants. And I'm like, you're paying people to do what I can do, right? Like, you're paying millions of someone to get advice for people on a soil and water board when I could just give that advice. And or water's not fixed. So we have a real reason to have someone with knowledge in the Soil and Water Board. And I was like, your partisan politics are literally killing you. It's literally killing the dogs and animals here.
So they're doing it everywhere. And there's a larger point. And this comes back to something Larry was saying earlier. We have activists, we need candidates, but you kind of have to bring it, I don't know if full circle is the right word, but sort of like we need activists and candidates and people to work on campaigns. We need people to show up.
Yes.
So how do we do
There's
that?
4 things. I want to make that clear. You're right. Activists, candidates, volunteers, donors. Those are the 4 we need, all 4 of them. Now, the sad part is, since there's so few of us, most of us do all 4 because there's so few of us. So we do all 4. The hardest part is, do we know which hat we have on? And we often don't, because there's so many hats to wear. Am I playing activist now? Am I playing donor? Am I volunteer? What am I doing? It becomes hard to do that. So we need more bodies so we can divvy it up more. And I can know, okay, I'm just doing candidate, right? Okay, no. When I first started, I was just donor, right? I was just writing checks. That's what I was. I gave money to when we bought the building in 2013 or whatever. We bought the building. I wrote a check to that, the founders thing, whatever. I was writing checks. So I was writing checks to Gary Jones. I was writing checks. All I did was write checks. I was a donor. Then I kind of became a bit of an activist, then became a volunteer. Like the guy who ran for governor in 2014 was getting Michael McDermott in New York State. I was his driver, right? So I drove him around. I was his driver. I was his body man. So I became a volunteer. So I just became whatever was required. That's how I kind of learned how, and I became a candidate. So we need more bodies so we can do each of those things better. And some of us are better at some of us are much better as activists, better at volunteers, right? Some of us are better. Some of us should just be treasurers. Some of us should just be candidates. Some of us should just be activists, right? Some of us are better at certain things. There's just not enough of us. So why not doing it all?
The number of people who have run who are like, I'm happy to teach from my experience, but I will never, ever do that again.
Absolutely.
That's Matt. That was kind of, it wasn't that adamant, but you were like, I'm not really interested in the running part.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to run every time and I'm going to win at some point. We're getting closer. I'm just saying.
See,
I
she's
got
like me, 'cause here's
3,000
what
people
mine.
to write my last name in. That's pretty good. And then I got 30-something thousand to do
There
the
we
bubble.
go.
So I'm gonna
She's
win
one of
some.
mine. Keep going, Christina. I
Yeah,
like it.
see-
She's one of mine.
You know what's funny though is like right now in Orange County, we're looking over the different races and the incumbent mayors are all not running. So now we've got Hillsborough, Chapel Hill, and Carrboro, the 3 municipalities in Orange, and 2 of the 3 mayors are stepping down. Our municipal elections are in an off year. So, we're looking right now, and the last thing we want to do as a party is have no challengers, just having like the primary be the election. Like you watch The Wire and they all joke about, Carcetti, if he just makes it to the primary, he's going to get elected. Well, that's the way it works in Orange County for all intents and purposes.
New York City too. I'm with you.
Yeah. So
Here too.
at the end of the day, I might say I might never want to run again, but if I find out that there's nobody challenging for the mayor of Carrboro, like I live in Carrboro, people in Carrboro deserve another choice. I may not be the best choice.
Can I push back on this one, Matt? I
Yeah,
know
sure.
I'm
course.
the oddball here. People think I'm crazy when I say it.
Yeah.
But I disagree.
Okay.
I think I would rather, if you got 3 open slots,
Mhm.
what I'd rather do is find the best candidate who wants to run. The best one who wants to run. Let's say it happens to be Christina. She's in the area. I don't know if you are, but for the sake of argument, she is. She's in the area. She could run for one of them. She wants to run. I would put all our resources,
Mhm.
every body, every dollar, every volunteer, everything behind her and let the other ones rot because no one's going to pay attention. No one's going to see it. People don't want choice. They don't want choice. They want a choice. We'd have more parties. They don't want choice. What they want is someone who will solve their problems. Most Americans would take a king if they could pick the king. They just want their problem solved. So in my personal opinion, I would rather take everybody, put it up against one person, have everyone push that one person and get the maximum impact, right? If she could get up to 10, 20, 30%, that's newsworthy. That makes us valid. you've now helped every other candidate in the future because she was valid. They go, oh, Libertarians are valid, versus 3 people that all get 1% each that no one even notices. And it was a waste of time and energy. And more importantly, you burned out people for nothing. You burned out donors, you burned out volunteers, you burned out activists for nothing, versus burn them out on something that made some impact they can feel proud of and want to deal with. That's just my view. I know people disagree.
I think we can do both, though. I
Yeah, I was
think
gonna say,
we can do what Matt's saying. You go the last day of filing, you see who's not running, what's open, right? What's not opposed, and you have someone like right for mayor, right? In our town, we have municipal going on right now too. And we have someone go for mayor against them. And then once all the filing's done, the state party or the county determines who is the one person we're going to put all our volunteers, all our donors against. We get together as libertarians. I know we're difficult to unify, but we get together as libertarians and we go, you know what, these 2 or 3, 4, however many, we can split our resources amongst these ones geographically or monetarily, and then put our weight behind them. But so then we're both fulfilling both pieces. We're still on the ballot for those 1s or 2s, like in my area for our state representative, there was only a Democrat running against a Democrat. If I had the chance, I wish I had run against that because I would have had a chance, right? And I think that's how we need to go forward. We need to make sure that there aren't any blanks in the primaries. And then we put all our weight behind the ones who truly want to win and truly have a chance.
well, and that's, I think, Matt, from what I know, you would reluctantly run, but then you would be all in. It's not.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I would definitely be running. So in North Carolina, you know, years ago, we came up with the choice, change, challenge levels of candidates, where choice is basically, for all intents and purposes, a paper candidate. Change is, you know, answering all the surveys, do some block walking, participating in candidate forums, spend 5 to 10 hours a week on your campaign. Well, you can't run for local office and not do all that stuff. I mean, you're shortchanging yourself and your community. So, you know, you could always work on, you know, getting the message of those things that you want people to understand. Like, for instance, in Orange County, recently, the northern part of the county up by the I-40 85-95 corridor, we're going to get a possibility for a Buc-ee's. And the people that lived around there said, this is great. You know, we'd love to have some high paying jobs. This is awesome, you know, and yet the people in the southern part of the county said, oh man, petroleum, that's terrible. We need to push our communities away from that. And so basically they just said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have a lot of really nice stuff, but we're just going to make property tax pay for it. And so at least at that chance, we can send a message through, like, there are other ways of doing this. The people that work on campus and support all the students that we're trying to bring into realizing that there are other options for them as far as homes politically, and there are options of how to fix the problems that they're learning about at the university, and coming around and showing those type of messages. But at the same point, you know, what Steven talked about earlier is you don't really learn about what the main issues are in your community until you go talk to everybody. Yep. And so that is absolutely critical.
And I'll just say one thing too. I'm more in Larry Sharpe's camp as far as, you know, the purpose of running one candidate and going all in, keeping your powder dry, and, you know, taking that, you know, that headshot, to use a metaphor, or an aphorism, whatever, same difference. But one of the things I noticed when I ran my campaign in Mecklenburg County, in Charlotte, right? I started early, so I was, you know, in the primary period, right? And I did this on purpose, mostly because I wanted to still go to the candidate forums during the primaries to see all the variety of who was running, right? You know, for the at-large seat, for example, there are 4 at-large seats that win by plurality. So the top 4 vote getters win, right? So you had like 10 Democrats running for those 4 seats, and they got primaried down to 4. And then you had, you know, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 Republicans, and they get winnowed down to, you know, it actually ended up only being 3 by the end of it, which was fine. And then me, right? But what was interesting is I got to see all the different kinds of candidates at all the different levels, whether it was district level or city at large level, which is citywide, and who made it past the primary and didn't. And one of the things I noticed was the people who never really made it, one of the big things that you could kind of pick up on was their attitude, like right from the get-go. So if their attitude was like, this is great, this is awesome, I'm a happy warrior for my, like, yeah, Democrats, blah, 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 or, oh yeah, Republican, yeah, and they're all like super happy and cheerful about it and high energy, like almost always those people made it past the hump, right? And anyone who was like dour, like, oh, things are terrible, things are bad, we need to change this, the kind of dour doomerism that you can kind of get if you like, oh, there's a problem and this is a big problem, and all you're talking about is like, the problem. People are like, yeah, sure, that's the problem, but you kind of make me sad, so I'm not going to vote for you. So one of the things I tried to do was emulate that happy factor. So, yeah, I could go on like, oh, the state's too big. You have all these like ridiculous bureaucracies are making it difficult for we're going to spend, $300 million on a streetcar that on day one that it'll get stopped in its tracks by a double parked car for like 5 hours. Versus like, oh, we could upgrade the entire bus fleet and have like twice as many buses that are super comfortable that everyone wants to get around on, So rather than be like, oh, the buses, the streetcar, 18th century technology, it's a waste of money. I'd be like, well, why don't we just take all that awesome money and like make the bus system really awesome, and then have a hub and spoke system. And then, the streetcar is great, but you only have one operator, but all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of different bus drivers now. So you're doing that jobs thing, and, the bus can go around a double parked car and, like bring like the happy positive aspect. And people generally were like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. And, raising the mood of the room. So, one of the things as a candidate, because we're a third party, kind of small on the big scheme of things, and 50 years of activism, very little, wins to show for it. It's easy to be dour and glum about everything.
Yes,
but if you go into the room, smile on your face, your back straight, wearing a full Windsor knot tie, you go and you're like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm happy to be here. Let's talk about how we can make, this place that we live in even better. People are pretty receptive to that idea. And it's better for your morale as well.
Mental health. No kidding. Well, all right, we're running up on time. So, Larry, I opened the conversation with saying, what's the first thing you should think of as a candidate? Well, first, let me ask, before we go, thank you for being here. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything we should check out? Any websites?
I don't know. Is there anything I should plug? I don't know. Is there anything that we should plug?
That's fair enough.
I don't think anything.
I'll drop a link in the comments too. And
what about the Sharpe way? Is that a thing?
Oh, yes. How about the Sharpe way? Thank you. I didn't even think about plugging the Sharpe way at all. Thank you. Yes. The Sharpe way. It's on almost every night, either at 7 or at 9, and sometimes at 3, but it's on all the time. Just check it out on all the things. It's on Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, all the things. It's on everything. And just Google Larry Sharpe. You'll see me in all the things.
And I highly recommend the Sharpe way. Also, LPNC.org, Tar Heel Libertarian. The last two chair chats were with Matt and Steven, and we really get into like some of the issues in Orange County and Mecklenburg and what we can do about them. And Christina, I actually have a whole interview. I just got to find. Christina's a very difficult person to get in touch with. For those of you watching her, though, she's the busiest person on the planet. She's got like 6 kids on her back, like fixing cars. She's at the beach, she's at the mountains at the same time. I have no idea what's going on.
Army reserves, all those things. Yeah.
So on that note, Larry, like how to phrase, what is the final thing a candidate? So, okay, I've got it all lined up. I've got donors, I've got my team, I've got volunteers, I'm ready to do it. What's the like last thing a candidate should think of before jumping in?
I think there are 2 things. The first one is, what is the win other than winning? Right? What's the impact? Right? That piece is important because your heavy hitter donors don't believe you can win, even if you can. The heavy hitter donors they've seen the failures so many times, they don't believe it anymore, right? So you have to have an impact other than winning. And that can't be, move the message. It must be concrete. It can't be more choice, or it has to be something like, if I can't win this thing, I can make sure that everyone sees how crappy this, whatever, this tax is, and maybe it will fail. Okay, that's impact. Or I'm going to make sure that the Democrat has to be exposed for the thing they did. Okay. Or the Republican is going to have to actually support the Second Amendment like he said he was going to do. Okay. There's got to be something that you can say easy that people can understand that is impact if you don't win. Whatever that is. And it can't be something generic like, get the message out. That's not good enough. It must be something clear. It can be minor. It can be like, I think people don't understand what eminent domain is. And when I'm done, everyone in this town is going to know what eminent domain is. That is something tangible that people can get. So I would say what you want to be able to do is say, you know what is the impact I can make, win, lose, or draw? Whatever happens, what can I get that people can go, this makes sense? Because I don't want my donors, I don't want my activists, I don't want my volunteers to be burned out for nothing. I'm gonna be burned out for something. I got something done. See that? Now I'm back in again. Oh, Steven's running again? I'm in again. Because last time Steven did it.
How much does that create momentum?
Of course it does. Of course it does. Right? If Steven doesn't win, but all of a sudden now everyone knows the difference between, why people are putting in, sewer systems here and not sewer systems over here. Oh, this is a whole scam. Yeah, it's a whole scam. Now people go, got it. Wow, that made sense. I'm glad I was on his campaign. I'm glad I busted my ass. I'm glad I door knocked with that guy. So now when he runs again, they're back in action again. Because now they're ready to go again, because we got something done last time, we'll get it done again. So you want to have something you're achieving, win, lose, or draw, whatever that thing is. And the second thing is you want to have a campaign idea. What's the idea? And what I mean by that is this really, is this to get more freedom? Is that really what it is about? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Or is it something silly like, it's to make sure that next year we can actually run 3 candidates. Right? What am I trying to achieve? What's the message behind it? So what is the tangible thing that I can actually achieve? And then what's the feeling behind it? Like, am I making people freer? Am I getting the government out of people's lives? Am I supporting poor people? Am I tearing down the state? What's the feeling behind it? So 1, the tangible, and 2, the feeling. Those 2 things. The feeling moves the masses. The tangible moves donors.
And there you have it. Build the feeling, connect with people emotionally, and then everything takes off from there. Earn trust. This is awesome. I appreciate all of you, all 4 of you so much. Like, this is fun. I can't believe I get to do this. So
Yay.
thank you all. Very,
I
very
can't believe we get to do it too.
Yeah, that's fair. Neither can anyone listening. So, but no, this is great. I hope we can do it again with everyone on here. The Sharpe Way. I will put a link in the comments immediately when this goes up. So go down and check it out. Larry really does get just awesome guests all the time. Really good discussions, and not shying away from tough topics, but showing us how to have the discussions, which is, I think, something we need to do right now. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Reps.
Hello there, and welcome to the sports portion of this podcast. And this is Dub, but unfortunately no Gru this evening, or because he's off doing a little research out in Las Vegas, because HB 347 was passed this week by the House, which means it goes to the governor's desk, and I don't know when he's going to sign it, but when he signs it, it'll be legal. Well, not until January the 8th, but it will be legal come 2024 to place a sports bet in North Carolina without having to go to a Native American casino. So I wish Travis well on his trip out there. And what this means for North Carolina is that great sucking sound you hear of all that money leaving for Tennessee and Virginia will hopefully cease, or at least be reduced by a great amount because people will still go to the casino in Danville, which is just across the state line in Virginia. But I have had people tell me that they go to Virginia strictly so they can legally sports bet without going to a Native American facility. So this will be great for the state of North Carolina. More money will stay here in the state. It might also give people, the casual better, more freedom to do stuff, to place a little $5 or $10 bet, not drop tremendous amounts of money, because that's what it's for. People to have fun, people to get interested in a game more than just watching it. So, go spend that money, but spend it responsibly and know your limits. And that's why I am happy this has passed. So.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Now we go to a different sort of thing, and that is still reporting on the Panther OTAs, where Bryce Young got elevated to the #1 role for the Carolina Panthers. And this is also a good thing. His progression has been great. He is progressing at a faster rate than I think anyone expected, that he might have not got named the #1 quarterback until training camp. But it seems that he's picked up the playbook, he's studied the plays, and Andy Dalton has really done a marvelous job of being the better man here and being the mentor that he needs to be. So this is very good. And also I've heard great things about Mingo, the wide receiver, where he has shown a great catching ability. And of course, he was highly praised by the Panthers legend, Steve Smith, Agent 89 himself. And now we wait for the draft for the Charlotte Hornets. We're waiting for the end of the NBA Finals, which seem to be around the corner after the resounding Game 4 victory by the Denver Nuggets to put the chokehold 3-1 lead on the Miami Heat. And Miami just looks like a dog with no teeth right now. They try and try, but they throw the kitchen sink and they cannot stop Murray and Jokic. And also the bench played a big role last night. And Aaron Gordon throwing in 25 points didn't hurt either. So looks like we'll get to the draft before you know it, where they have a big decision in Charlotte to make. But I personally still think it should be Scoot Henderson, because he will pair well with Mr. Ball running in the backcourt. So, but that is all I can talk about by myself, because I don't have my sparring partner, Travis Grew. Like I said, he'll be back next week. But until then, y'all take care. And this has been the Sports Report with Dub only from Liberty Inc. Thank y'all very much.
Hi, this is Travis, live from Vegas. I'm here with my best friend from 3rd grade. Hi. And we put down $100 on Vegas winning the Stanley Cup. We really believe it's going to happen, right?
It's happening.
And if they win, we win some money. And we're here at the Mirage. Behind us is the Sportsbook MGM betting area. And we just wanted to give you a quick update and say thanks for watching. Keep in mind the Panthers are in preseason right now and training, and we believe that they're going to do okay this year. I believe they'll get 8 or 9 wins this year. That's what I'll give them. We're still in rebuilding process, but I'm sure Dub gave you all the updates on everything else. Just wanted to say thank you from Vegas, and thanks for watching.